My key doesn't work. I stand on the porch of my childhood home frozen in disbelief as the metal refuses to turn in the lock. I try again, jiggling the handle with increasing force until panic rises in my throat. This can't be happening, I whisper, the evening air carrying away my words. I fumble in my bag for my phone, wondering if Greg changed the locks for security reasons without telling me. My hands shake so badly that my work bag slips from my shoulder, spilling papers across the wooden planks. Financial reports scatter in the autumn breeze, dancing across the porch my mother and I painted together the summer before she got sick. Before I can gather them, the door swings open. Pamela stands in the entryway, her expression shifting from surprise to something harder as she deliberately positions herself in the doorway, blocking my entrance. "Rachel, we weren't expecting you today." Her voice is sugar, sweet, but her eyes remain cold. She makes no move to help with my scattered papers or to invite me in. "My key doesn't work," I say, straightening up with as much dignity as I can muster. "Why doesn't my key work in my own house?" Pamela's smile tightens. "Greg had the locks changed last week. For security." My father appears behind her, his face unreadable. "Rachel, honey, you should have called first." "I shouldn't need to call before coming to my own home," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Greg steps outside, closing the door behind him. He guides me to the porch swing, away from Pamela's ears. "Look, Rachel," he says quietly. "There's something I need to tell you." He rubs his neck, not meeting my eyes. "I never exactly told Pamela that the house is technically yours. She thinks we own it now." The world tilts beneath me. 6 years of avoidance and pretending crashed down in an instant. I remember Mom's final days with painful clarity. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and dying flowers, but her voice remained clear when she squeezed my hand. "The house is yours, Rachel. It's your sanctuary, no matter what happens." I was 18, preparing for college, unprepared for a world without her. 2 months after the funeral, when the grief still woke me at night, Greg brought Pamela home. "Just until we find our own place," he promised. "I was heading to college anyway," he reasoned. The house would be empty. Emma, Pamela's 10-year-old daughter, needed stability. I said yes because saying no seemed cruel, because fighting felt impossible when breathing took all my energy. During college breaks, I watched silently as Pamela replaced Mom's curtains, repainted walls, rearranged furniture. I told myself it didn't matter, they were temporary changes to a permanent home. My home. Now, standing on the porch with autumn leaves swirling around my feet, I realize how completely I've been deceived. "You've lived here for 6 years, I say, my voice low, "and you never told your wife the truth?" Greg avoids my eyes. It never seemed like the right time. "And when exactly were you planning to tell her?" My hands have stopped trembling. Anger replaces shock, burning away the uncertainty. "I need a key to my house, Greg. Today." Of course," he says quickly. "Just let me handle Pamela my way. She's sensitive about these things." "These things? You mean the fact that you've been lying to her about owning my house? The house my mother left to me?" "Rachel, please, it's complicated." I really look at him, and see the weakness I've been avoiding since Mom died. He's always taken the path of least resistance, and I've allowed it because confronting the truth meant confronting my loss. "No, it's not complicated. This is my house. I'm moving back in." Something in my tone makes him step back. The door opens, and Pamela emerges, her expression transformed into warm welcome. "Rachel, sweetie, come in. I've got dinner almost ready. You must be exhausted after work." The performance is flawless, but only because Greg is watching. I've seen the mask slip too many times when he isn't around. I walk past her into my mother's home and immediately notice what's missing. Mom's photograph, the one of her standing in the garden with sunlight in her hair, is gone from the mantel where it's always been. Later, when Pamela is busy in the kitchen and Greg is helping Emma with homework, I find it tucked away in a drawer, face down beneath a stack of magazines. The glass is smudged with fingerprints, as if someone held it tightly before hiding it away. I wipe the glass clean with my sleeve and hold the frame against my chest. If I lose this house, I lose the last piece of Mom I have left. Her sanctuary. My inheritance. I won't let that happen. Not anymore. The moving box tears as I lift it from my trunk, spilling college textbooks across the driveway. I gather them quickly, aware of Pamela watching from the kitchen window, her silhouette rigid with disapproval. 3 days back in my childhood home, and already the air feels thick with unspoken hostility. Inside my old bedroom now, the guest room, according to Pamela, slide the last box under the bed and open my suitcase. Beneath neatly folded blouses lies the framed photo of Mom and me in her garden, our last summer together. I place it on the nightstand, a silent claim to this space. While unpacking, I notice the drawer in the desk sticks. I pull harder, and it slides open to reveal a stack of mail that clearly hasn't been touched in months. Curious, I flip through the envelopes and freeze when I spot one addressed to homeowner Pamela Monroe. My fingers grow numb. I tear it open and find a property tax notice in Pamela's name. Not Greg and Pamela, just Pamela. The room tilts. I sink onto the bed, papers trembling in my hands. More envelopes reveal utility bills, insurance statements, all in Pamela's name alone. Each one feels like another nail in my mother's coffin, another theft of her memory. This can't be legal, I whisper, my voice sounding small in the room that no longer feels like mine. Footsteps in the hallway send me scrambling to hide the evidence. I slide everything under the mattress just as Emma appears in the doorway, her 14-year-old frame filling the space with adolescent awkwardness. Mom wants to know if you're eating with us tonight, she says, eyes darting around the room that once held my childhood treasures. Yes, I answer, forcing a smile. I'll be right down. After Emma leaves, I slip into Greg's home office. The large oak desk, my mother's writing desk, dominates the room. I try the drawers, finding most unlocked. In the bottom one, beneath hanging file folders, my fingers touch a thick manila envelope. I pull it out, heart pounding. Inside is my mother's will, the paper crisp and official, her signature clear at the bottom. I read it quickly, though I already know what it says. I leave my entire estate, including the property at 1423 Maple Street, to my daughter Rachel Susan Monroe. The dinner table becomes a battlefield that evening. Pamela serves Greg a generous portion of lasagna while Emma receives the perfect corner piece. My plate arrives last, noticeably smaller. The house is coming along nicely, Pamela says, speaking to Greg as if I'm not there. I've scheduled the contractors to look at the kitchen next week. The renovation should only take a month. Greg nods, eyes fixed on his plate. And I've picked out paint samples for my room, Emma adds, her voice bright with excitement. Dark teal for the accent wall. Your room? I ask quietly. You mean my childhood bedroom? Emma looks to her mother, suddenly uncertain. Well, Pamela says with a tight smile, it's been Emma's room for nearly 6 years now. Your old things are in storage. The lasagna turns to ash in my mouth. I was thinking I'd move into the master bedroom tomorrow, I say casually, taking a sip of water. Forks freeze midair. The silence stretches until Pamela laughs, a brittle sound. That's our bedroom now, she says, her voice sharp despite her smile. You can stay in the guest room until you find your own place. Greg clears his throat. Rachel, honey, we weren't expecting you to move back permanently. Surely with your new job, you'll want your own apartment soon. This is my own place, I reply, setting my glass down with deliberate care. Mom left it to me. Pamela's face hardens. We've lived here for years. We've paid the taxes, maintained the property. With my mother's money, I cut in. From the trust she set up. Greg places his hand over Pamela's. Let's not discuss this at dinner. The next morning, I find my clothes damp and shrunken in the dryer. So sorry, Pamela says with wide, innocent eyes. I must have used the wrong setting. Later, I discover my toiletries moved from the main bathroom to the small half bath near the laundry room. Emma avoids my gaze when I ask why. Mom says we need to establish boundaries, she mumbles before scurrying away. That night, I retreat to the guest room, clutching Mom's silver locket in my palm until the metal warms against my skin. I've spent the day researching rental properties in Asheville, but the costs make my stomach sink. My entry-level analyst position barely covers student loans and living expenses. I can't afford to rent anything comparable to what I already legally own. A soft knock at the door startles me. Greg enters without waiting for a response, his face a mask of fatherly concern. Rachel, I know this is awkward, he begins, perching on the edge of the bed. But we need to be practical. You can stay in the guest room until you get on your feet, but Pamela and Emma consider this their home now. And what do you consider it? I ask. He looks away. I think compromise is best for everyone. Compromise, I repeat. You mean me giving up my inheritance so Pamela can renovate my mother's kitchen? Greg stands, shoulders slumping. Just think about it, okay? We're family. After he leaves, I pull out my phone and call the bank where Mom did her business. The next morning, I visit the safety deposit box I didn't know existed until the bank manager mentioned it during our call. Inside the metal container lies a folder containing the original deed to the house, transfer documents signed after my mother's death, and a handwritten letter addressed to me. My dearest Rachel, it begins in Mom's familiar handwriting. If you're reading this, someone has tried to take what is rightfully yours. As I sat alone in what was now called the guest room of my own home, I wondered if I should confront them all at once or wait until I had all my evidence in order. Would immediate action reclaim my space faster, or would patience allow me to regain complete control? What would you do when the people who should protect you are the ones taking what's yours? 2 days later, the neighborhood barbecue reeks of territorial marking. I stand on the sidelines of my own backyard, watching Pamela work the crowd with practiced charm. My father hovers near the grill, flipping burgers with the ease of a man who believes he owns the place. And here's where we're planning to put in the new fire pit. Pamela says, gesturing toward my mother's rose garden. Greg and I have been wanting to upgrade the landscaping since we bought the place. Mrs. Carpenter, who used to bring my mother gardening magazines, nods approvingly. It's wonderful what you've done with Susan's old house. Susan's old house. The words hit like a slap. I grip my plastic cup tighter, the lemonade suddenly bitter. Rachel, Pamela calls, waving me over with excessive enthusiasm. Come tell the Wilsons about your new job. She's staying with us temporarily. She adds in a stage whisper that's meant to be heard, just until she finds her own place. The Wilsons, who once brought me a graduation gift, look at me with polite interest, like I'm a distant relative visiting for the weekend. I've become a stranger in the home where I grew up. Later, I overhear Pamela discussing renovation plans with an interior designer. We're converting the small bedroom upstairs into my home office, she says, not bothering to lower her voice even though I'm 10 feet away. It's just collecting dust right now. That small bedroom was mine for 18 years. When the guests finally leave, Greg corners me in the kitchen. His voice is low, reasonable the tone he uses when he thinks he's being the mature one. You should be grateful we're letting you stay during your transition, Rachel. Most kids your age are on their own by now. I want to scream that this is my house, that he and Pamela are the ones who should be grateful. Instead, I nod and escape upstairs, only to find a yellow sticky note on my hairbrush. Please keep your things in your room, Emma. The bathroom counter is completely clear of my belongings. When I open the medicine cabinet, I find my toothbrush relegated to the bottom shelf. The next morning, searching for a particular blouse, I venture into the garage. Cardboard boxes line the walls, filled with items deemed unworthy of the house. In one, buried beneath Christmas decorations I don't recognize, I find my mother's crystal vasessa, one that always sat on our entry table, filled with fresh flowers every Sunday. My throat tightens. I pull it out, running my fingers over the delicate cut patterns. Mom loved this vase. She'd inherited it from her grandmother and told me stories about special occasions when it graced their dinner table. Now it sits forgotten in a dusty box, replaced by Pamela's mass-produced decor. That night, I lie awake, my heart racing whenever I hear footsteps in the hallway. Will Pamela decide my laptop doesn't match her aesthetic? Will Emma decide my books take up too much space? The anxiety follows me through breakfast, where I realize Pamela has forgotten to shop for my almond milk. Again. I begin taking photos when no one's around the original crown molding, the built-in bookshelves my grandfather crafted, the window seat where Mom and I would read together. I make notes about what belongs where, documenting the home as it should be, as it was before. During lunch breaks at work, I research real estate attorneys. The first one I call says I need property records, which means a trip to the county clerk's office. I schedule the appointment for next week. A day later, at home, the sound of the front door opening sends me scrambling to close my browser tabs. Rachel, are you home, dear? Mrs. Jenkins calls out. She's 82 and has lived next door since before I was born. In the kitchen, I answer, surprised by the visit. Mrs. Jenkins shuffles in, glancing around as if to make sure we're alone. Your mother's daffodils are coming up nicely, she says, settling into a chair. I thought you might like to know. I pour her tea in one of the few remaining mugs my mother picked out. Thank you for noticing. Mrs. Jenkins leans forward, her voice dropping. This house was always meant to be yours, Rachel. Your mother made sure of it. Don't let them take what's rightfully yours. The validation brings unexpected tears to my eyes. Someone else remembers. Someone else knows the truth. After she leaves, I feel something shift inside me, a quiet resolve replacing the hesitation that's kept me silent. The next morning, I enter the kitchen to find Pamela standing on a step stool, removing plates from my mother's china cabinet. A cardboard box on the counter is already half filled with the delicate blue and white dishes that Mom used for every holiday dinner. "What are you doing?" I ask, my voice calmer than I feel. Pamela barely glances at me. "These old dishes don't match our aesthetic. I'm donating them." Our aesthetic, as if she's consulted me about anything in this house. I cross the kitchen and lift the box from the counter. The familiar weight of the Chinese mother's prized possession steadies my hands. "These were my mother's," I say, meeting Pamela's startled gaze. "Nothing of hers leaves this house without my permission." Pamela's face flushes. She climbs down from the stool, her smile hardening into something ugly. "You don't get to make those decisions. This is my house now. You're just a guest who's overstayed her welcome." The words hang in the air between us. No more pretense, no more polite fiction. And suddenly, I see with perfect clarity how I've enabled this all the times I've swallowed my objections, all the small surrenders that led to this moment. By trying to keep peace, I've given them permission to take everything. I place the box on the table and begin carefully returning each plate to its proper place in the cabinet. "We'll see about that," I say quietly. Later that afternoon, there's a knock at the door. Mrs. Jenkins stands on the porch, clutching a worn leather address book. "I found something you might need," she says. Susan's contacts, including her attorney. 2 days later, my college friend Marcus calls. "I asked my cousin about your situation," he says. "He practices real estate law. Says it's textbook adverse possession attempt. But since you've got the deed and have been living there intermittently, they don't have much of a case." The contrast strikes me, these people who barely know me offering more support than my own family. When I mention the property tax bills to Marcus, he listens without interruption. When I tell Mrs. Jenkins about finding Mom's vase, she nods with understanding. Greg dismisses. Pamela deflects. Emma mimics. That evening, while Greg and Pamela are out, I retrieve my mother's photographs from drawers and closets where they've been hidden away. One by one, I arrange them on the mantel, Mom in her garden, Mom and me at the beach, Mom standing on this very porch the summer before she got sick. I take a day off work the following week and drive downtown to meet with Arthur Simmons, my mother's former attorney. His office smells of leather and paper, comfortingly old-fashioned. "The will is ironclad," he assures me, adjusting his glasses as he reviews the documents. Susan was very specific about her intentions. He reaches into a drawer and removes a sealed envelope. She also left this with instructions to give it to you if there was ever any question about the property. Inside is a letter in my mother's handwriting, describing her concerns that Greg might try to claim the house after her death. He always wanted to sell it. She wrote, "But this is your legacy, Rachel. Your sanctuary." My phone buzzes with a text as I'm driving home, the letter safely tucked in my bag. It's from Emma. "Mom and Dad are planning a trip to Belize next weekend. They think you'll be gone by the time they get back." I pull over, read the message twice. Then I dial Mrs. Jenkins. "I need your help," I say when she answers. Next day, the morning light streams through the guest room curtains as I lay out my battle plan on the small desk. Property deed, will copy. Notebook filled with meticulous lists weapons in a war I never wanted to fight. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. "Boxes in my garage whenever you're ready." I photograph each room methodically, capturing the current state of my mother's home. In the living room, Pamela has replaced Mom's hand-woven throw with a store-bought blanket in a shade that clashes with the original decor. I documented evidence of the slow erasure happening under my nose for years. "What are you doing?" Emma's voice startles me as I photograph the hallway. "Just taking some pictures for a friend who's decorating." I lie, hating how easily it comes. She loves the color scheme. After Emma heads to school, I continue my inventory. Each of Mom's remaining possessions gets a tiny dot sticker on the bottom, invisible unless you're looking for it, but proof of what belongs to her legacy. The china cabinet, her reading chair, the antique mirror in the entryway, all quietly marked as mine. The following day, I meet with Howard Brennan, Mom's attorney since before I was born. His office smells of leather and paper, comfortingly unchanged. "The will is ironclad, Rachel," Howard says, adjusting his reading glasses. "Your mother was very specific. The house and everything in it belongs solely to you." He slides a folder across his desk. "These are the legal notifications we can send, including a formal assertion of ownership and, if necessary, eviction proceedings." I swallow hard. I hope it doesn't come to that. "Let's prepare for all possibilities." Howard's eyes are kind but firm. "I've also drafted a letter for any contractors they might bring in, confirming you as the legal owner." The letter proves useful sooner than expected. 2 days later, I arrive home from work to find a truck with Asheville Home Renovations painted on the side parked in the driveway. Inside, Pamela is gesturing animatedly to a man in work clothes, while Greg hovers nearby. "The cabinets should be replaced completely," Pamela says, "and we want to take down this wall to open up the space." I step into the kitchen, setting my bag down with deliberate calm. "What's happening here?" Pamela's smile tightens. "Oh, Rachel, we're finally updating this dated kitchen. Don't worry, you'll love it." The contractor extends his hand. "Jim Reeves, you must be their daughter?" "I'm Rachel Monroe," I say, shaking his hand. "The homeowner." The room falls silent. Jim looks between us, confusion evident. "There must be some misunderstanding," Pamela laughs nervously. "Greg and I have lived here for years. We're the homeowners." Jim's expression shifts to discomfort. "Ma'am, I'll need to see the deed before we proceed with any major renovations. Standard procedure." "I have it right here," I say, retrieving the copy from my bag. "Along with the property tax information and my mother's will, naming me as the sole owner." Jim reviews the documents, then hands them back with an apologetic nod. "I'm sorry, but I can only proceed with authorization from the legal owner." He turns to Pamela. "If you'd like to discuss this as a family and reach an agreement, give me a call." After he leaves, Greg attempts damage control. "Rachel, honey, we should sit down and discuss the future of this house. Come to some arrangement that works for everyone." When Greg suggests we come to an arrangement about my mother's house, I wonder, should I negotiate for peace, allowing them to stay under clear terms, or was it time to reclaim what was mine completely? Some bonds, once broken, might never be worth repairing. That evening, Mrs. Jenkins stops by with a blueberry cobbler mom's favorite. "I'll keep an eye on things while you're at work," she promises, her voice lowered though we're alone in the kitchen. "If they try anything, I'll call you immediately." Marcus drops by the following weekend with empty boxes and packing tape. "These are for whenever you need them," he says, storing them in his garage after we load them into his truck. "Just say the word." At work, I approach my boss about the situation. To my relief, she understands immediately. "Family property disputes are brutal," she says, signing my time-off request. "Take whatever hours you need next week. Just keep your phone on for emergencies." Howard calls with an update. "The eviction notice is ready if needed. 30 days is standard, though I hope they'll leave voluntarily once they understand their position. With my support network in place, I feel stronger than I have in months. I have legal standing, documentation, and a plan. The house will be mine again, not just in theory but in reality." That night, a soft knock on the guest room door surprises me. Emma stands in the hallway, fidgeting with her phone case. "Are you really leaving before our trip?" she asks, her voice small. I hesitate, unsure what Pamela has told her. "What trip?" "To Belize. Mom says you'll be gone when we get back." I shake my head slowly. "I'm not planning to go anywhere, Emma." Her brow furrows in confusion, but before she can respond, Pamela appears in the hallway. "Emma, bedtime," she says sharply, eyeing my half-unpacked suitcase with obvious relief. Her voice softens artificially. "Rachel, don't forget to water the plants while we're gone." The next evening, Greg brings home takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, a transparent peace offering. "Green curry, extra spicy," he says, setting the bag on the counter. "Just how you like it." As they pack for their trip, I watch them move around the house with growing confidence. They believe I'm preparing to leave. They don't realize I'm preparing to stay permanently. Greg counts out $500 bills on the kitchen counter, sliding them toward me with a practiced smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "A little something to help you get started in your new place." I stare at the money the insulting pittance meant to buy my inheritance. Mother's house is worth nearly $500,000 in today's market. My house. That's very generous, I say, not touching the bills. Outside, Pamela loads suitcases into their SUV, humming loudly enough that I can hear her through the open window. We all need fresh starts sometimes, Greg says, patting my hand. You'll find something perfect, I'm sure of it. Maybe that apartment complex near your office? The one with the mold problem and paper-thin walls. Of course he'd suggest that. Emma shuffles into the kitchen, her expression confused. Why aren't you packing, Rachel? Mom said you'd be gone by the time we get back from Belize. Before I can answer, Pamela bustles in, her smile too bright, too fixed. All packed. Greg? We need to leave in 20 minutes to make our flight. She straightens a vase of artificial flowers replacements for my mother's fresh garden arrangements and adds casually, We'll have the locks changed again when we return. Security, you know. Her eyes lock with mine, the message clear. Don't be here when we get back. And anything you leave behind, she continues, I'll donate to the church. They're always looking for contributions. My mother's remaining possessions, my childhood memories, all to be cleared away while I'm gone. Have a wonderful trip, I say, and watch them drive away through the living room window. The moment their SUV turns the corner, I pull out my phone. They're gone, I tell Marcus. Operation Home Reclamation is a go. Within 30 minutes, my support team arrives. Marcus brings 3 friends with moving boxes and packing tape. Mrs. Jenkins appears with a thermos of coffee and her steady, reassuring presence. My boss even stops by with sandwiches, having given me the week off. Where do we start? Marcus asks, surveying the living room. I hand him a stack of printed photographs of the house as it looked when my mother was alive. Everything that doesn't match these pictures goes to the garage. Everything that does stays where it belongs. We work with methodical efficiency. Pamela's crystal figurines boxed, Greg's recliner that replaced my mother's reading chair, dismantled and carried out. Emma's posters and knickknacks, carefully packed and labeled. On the kitchen counter, I place 3 documents, a copy of my mother's will, the property deed in my name, and the letter from her attorney confirming my sole ownership. Mrs. Jenkins brings me a cup of coffee as I direct the removal of Pamela's gaudy bedroom set from the master bedroom. Your mother would be proud, she says. She knew this day would come. By evening, the transformation is complete. My childhood furniture returns to my old room. My mother's reading chair sits again by the fireplace. Her china gleams in the cabinet where it belongs. Most importantly, my own belongings now occupy the master bedroom. The room where my mother spent her final days telling me stories about the house, about our family, about her hopes for my future. The locksmith arrives at 6, changing every lock and handing me the only set of keys. All done, ma'am, he says. Nobody's getting in without these. I sleep in my mother's bed that night, surrounded by her quilt and the faint scent of her perfume that lingers in the fabric. For the first time in years, I feel at home. The pounding on the front door comes at 11 3 days later in the morning, 3 days earlier than expected. I open it wearing my mother's apron, the one with embroidered roses along the hem. Greg's face is flushed with rage. Pamela stands behind him, mouth open in shock. Emma peeks around them both, eyes wide. What have you done? Greg demands, trying to push past me. I block the doorway. Your trip ended early. Our flight was canceled, Pamela snaps. Now let us in our house. I remove an envelope from my apron pocket and hand it to Greg. This is a formal notice prepared by my attorney. You have 30 days to find a new residence. You can't do this, Pamela shrieks, snatching the paper from Greg's limp fingers. We've lived here for years. This was never your home, I say, my voice steady and clear. It was my mother's, and now it's mine. The will and deed are on the kitchen counter if you'd like to see them. Emma pushes forward, confusion turning to understanding as she looks past me to see the transformed living room. Dad, you said this was our house. You said Rachel gave it to us. Her voice cracks. You lied to me? We'll sue you, Pamela hisses. We'll take everything. Greg remains silent, the fight draining from his face as reality sets in. Your belongings are boxed in the garage, I tell them. Take what you need today. You have 30 days for the rest. You ungrateful little, Pamela begins. 30 days, I repeat, or I'll enforce the eviction. Emma's face twists with betrayal not at me, but at her parents. You told me this was our house. You made me think Rachel wanted us to have it. She backs away from them. What else have you lied about? I close the door gently but firmly, turn the new lock, and lean against it. Only then do I allow the tears to come, not tears of sorrow or loss, but of profound relief. My mother's sanctuary is mine again. At last, I am home. The dining room glows with soft light as I arrange the last place setting on my mother's cherry table. 2 months have passed since I changed the locks, and tonight marks the first dinner party in my rightfully reclaimed home. Need any help with those? Marcus asks, carrying in a bottle of wine. Almost done. I smooth my hand over Mom's lace tablecloth, feeling the familiar texture against my fingertips. The house has transformed. Gone are Pamela's gaudy decorations and Greg's bulky leather furniture. In their place, I've restored Mom's original design elements, the walnut bookshelf in the living room, her watercolor landscapes on the walls, while adding my own touches. Modern light fixtures hang above antique tables. New curtains frame the windows Mom once gazed through while planning her garden. I place the final wine glass beside Mom's china plates, the same ones Pamela tried to donate. Their delicate blue pattern catches the light as I step back, a wave of satisfaction warming my chest. The doorbell chimes. When I swing the door open, Mrs. Jenkins stands on the porch, clutching a bouquet of garden flowers. "These are from my yard," she says, pressing them into my hands. "Susan would be proud of what you've done here." I breathe in the fragrance, remembering the countless times I stood in this exact spot, panicked and locked out of my own home. Now my key turns smoothly in the lock, the brass weight of it in my pocket a constant reassurance. The anxiety that once tightened my throat has dissolved, replaced by the steady certainty of ownership. "Come see what I've done out front," I say, leading Mrs. Jenkins to the garden beds. Yesterday I spent hours on my knees, turning soil and planting bulbs, Mom's favorite daffodils and tulips that will bloom next spring. The rose bushes she tended so carefully have been pruned back to health after years of neglect. "She knew exactly what she was doing when she left this place to you alone," Mrs. Jenkins says, patting my arm. "Some legacies shouldn't be divided." Inside, my small gathering assembles. Marcus pours wine while my colleagues from the firm admire the renovations. The conversation flows easily, filling rooms that once echoed with tension and unspoken resentments. "A toast," I say, raising my glass. Everyone quiets, to boundaries that protect and homes that heal. "And to Susan, Mrs. Jenkins adds, who taught Rachel more about standing her ground than she ever realized." She launches into a story about Mom chasing away a pushy real estate developer who wanted to buy our corner lot. The room fills with laughter. Later, after everyone has gone, I wander out to the back garden with a cup of tea. The moonlight silvers the overgrown paths I've begun to reclaim. Next weekend, I'll clear the wisteria that strangled the old trellis. By summer, the garden will breathe again. A letter arrived this morning from Emma. Unlike Greg and Pamela, who haven't spoken to me since the eviction, she wrote to apologize for her part in the deception and asked if she might visit someday. Back inside, I lift Mom's photograph from the mantel where it belongs. Her smile remains unchanged, confident, kind, uncompromising. As I held my mother's photograph, I wondered if I should respond to Emma's letter. Was it possible to forgive the innocent caught in others' deceptions? Or would maintaining distance be the wiser choice for my peace? What would you do? Extend an olive branch to those who might still become family, or protect the sanctuary I'd fought so hard